And joining me now on the broadcast from California, we have with us Alon Burstein. He's a visiting assistant professor and Israel Institute fellow at the University of California. Thank you so much for joining us yet again on WION, Mr. Burstein.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, there's a lot of ambiguity on Israel's ground offensive. With Netanyahu in a televised address, he asked the IDF soldiers to be prepared. Now, if a ground offensive is launched, will it be a defiance against the United States of America's position in the ongoing war, in the latest, Biden said that he did not demand Israel to delay a ground invasion and it was only a suggestion. What do you make of these statements made by Netanyahu and Biden?
So I think that President Biden has been trying to forestall Israel's ground invasion for two reasons. Number one is Qatar seems to be promising and so far delivering on the fact that they can pressure the Hamas movement to release hostages, at least possibly those with American citizenship or foreign nationality in general. And President Biden keeps on urging Israel to delay the ground invasion until more hostages are released. A second factor is this regional factor. There is Hezbollah, there's also militias in Yemen and in Iraq that have threatened to retaliate against the United States. The United States has so far moved 2 aircraft carriers, 2,000 Marines, deploying anti-missile batteries, anti-aircraft batteries, and the United States is telling Israel, wait until we can deploy as much as possible to protect our bases and our soldiers in the area. So that is why the United States is trying to forestall this invasion, and I think that that is really why Netanyahu today in his speech all of a sudden sounded a little bit differently. All of a sudden he said that our goals are also to remove Hamas from power, but also to release all the hostages, which in the first days of the war, he was not saying that. He was saying we're going to remove Hamas from power and destroy it, regardless of the hostage situations. I think that he's feeling the pressure to hold off for the hostages.
Right, Mr. Burstein. Now, like you mentioned, that Netanyahu has been talking about a much anticipated ground offensive in Gaza, and we've also seen tanks surround the Gaza border, and in the latest according to reports, Israel conducted overnight targeted raid attacks with tanks in Gaza, but Netanyahu has still not given a timeline as to when the offensive will take place. Why is that?
So right now, there is more and more urgency and disagreement within the Israeli cabinet regarding this ground offensive. The Israeli chief of staff, the military, has said, we're ready. We're ready to go. Israel has mobilized the largest mobilization that it has done in 50 years. There are 300,000 soldiers that have been drafted and are waiting to invade the Gaza Strip. The military is saying it's ready. And in the political establishment, in the cabinet, there's disagreements because Netanyahu is likely feeling the political pressure, but militarily, the army is ready to go. So that's the reason that he's holding off and sort of waiting right now to see what's happening. I will add also that there's growing concern in the international community that Israel has not thought out what's going to happen after it invades, after it theoretically removes Hamas from power. What comes next? Israel had a history before of having settlements in the Gaza Strip. No one in the international community wants to see that happen. Netanyahu has said that's not going to happen, but there are hawkish elements in his government who are making noise that maybe that will happen. And the world is really scared. And that's another reason that today the EU and the United States have suggested, according to the Wall Street Journal, who are putting pressure on Israel, think about the day after. You're going to go in and you're going to invade. What's next? And I think that may be another reason that's holding off the invasion, with Israel trying to figure out what is next. Let's say they go in and manage to destroy the Hamas movement. What happens then in Gaza? I think that they're still trying to figure that one out.
Right, Mr. Burstein, you speak of how there are possible skirmishes between the IDF and Netanyahu government. But in the latest, Netanyahu clearly said in the same televised address we're talking about that the decision of a ground offensive in Gaza will be taken by the war cabinet.
So there's currently 2 cabinets operating in Israel. There's Netanyahu's original government that we spoke about several times over the last year, which is this hawkish right-wing government that does not have a lot of trust in the Israeli population. And then when the war started, Netanyahu joined with another political party and had 2 former chiefs of staff join into a smaller war cabinet, and both cabinets are running side by side. And Netanyahu is saying, we are going to make the decision in the war cabinet together. That's sort of an indication to the Israeli population saying, don't worry, the hawkish elements that no one really trusts, they're not going to be the ones to decide. The war cabinet will decide together when the time is right. But in reality, the war cabinet does not have the actual authority to order the invasion. It all comes back to Netanyahu, which is the reason Netanyahu himself is the one who's being heavily pressured by all these international leaders, because at the end of the day, he's the only member of the Israeli government who is in both cabinets, and he's the only one who can actually order the invasion.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Burstein, for joining us on WION and sharing your insights with us on this.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.